Welcome, guys, to the Building Thriving Lifestyles podcast. I'm your host, Dave Giludottir, and I love to help create better humans by challenging myself and others. On today's episode, we are going to talk about digital boundaries. We're going to talk about the behind story of how I got started with digital boundaries, some of my old work environment, and more of the new work environment that I have. But I also really hope that after today's episode, you both feel a little bit inspired to do some tidying up in your digital boundaries yourself and maybe starting to implement a thing or two. So you might want to strap in for a little bit of a long one. You've probably seen that this episode is longer than the other ones, but I just don't know how I would explain this story without getting into some of the nitty-gritty stuff about how I was using my phone and describe to you a little bit more of now how I am using my phone to start to highlight why this is so important to me. I really want to share my story and hope to inspire you by sharing my story. So a little bit of a disclaimer, I'm not against phones, yeah? I don't hate phones. Even though we're talking about phones and digital gadgets, I am one of these that I love my phone. It makes my life so much easier. And in general, I don't know how I would do my line of business without my phone. In the past years, we have really seen a massive change and a huge advantage in technology. Since the first smartphones came out and you were able to load one website at a time and it took you 10 minutes, you could do a status update on Facebook but not upload any photos. We have developed 100 times, if not 1,000 times more. The function is literally there at your fingertips, readily available at all times. This has brought some amazing productivity tools and some ways for you to stay connected with your friends, your family, your bigger community. And like I said, it's quite literally at our fingertips. But I definitely have to say, I'm also one of these that remembers the time before the smartphone. And I do remember the different type of serenity, the zen feeling of not being contactable all the time. So there's definitely a flip side to having all this productivity and being so readily available in our hands that maybe isn't talked about enough. So some of the negative things that I have been looking into myself because I'm very interested in them is that technology use and smartphone use is resulting in a lot shorter attention span. So we can't even stand being bored for 5 seconds. Look at anyone who stands anywhere waiting for a bus for 2 minutes instead of thinking creatively about things and processing their own thoughts and emotions. Everyone is straight away on their phone, scrolling through social media, scrolling through Twitter or whatever you might be doing. So our ability to feel bored and to come up with creative solutions and process our emotions and feelings have definitely diminished. Another thing is that a lot of people that come to me have this extreme distorted body image and I don't know if it's body image, but it's distorted image of what you should be doing. Some could describe this as a FOMO or fear of missing out, but in a lot of sense, I think that people are comparing their image that they see in the mirror and their reality, the things that they're experiencing day to day, to some kind of a heightened, over-processed, photoshopped image of someone else on social media, and you can kind of get a little bit lost in comparing those two things. And last but not least, I have been looking a lot into the stress of being constantly available and connected and being expected to have a quick response time. In some cultures, and I don't know who came up with these culture norms, but you are expecting a reply almost instantly. You're kind of in people's pockets. When you shoot through a message, they receive it instantly, and we all know that we're all on our phone, so we in some sense expect that we also get replies instantly. And this is some of the more negative things that I've seen. And this ties completely in with where I'm going to go with this, because I want to share with you a little bit about my experience with my phone and how I got so passionate about talking about this thing. So I had this belief that I needed to be constantly reachable and available. little bit of a background story for those who don't know me. I live in Dubai. My family lives back in Iceland. At some point, some of my family lived in Denmark, but now they're all in Iceland. I am also an influencer or a fitness role model, but I also provide online services and I sell remote programs for people that usually have some kind of like an injury or are coming back after a setback. So I have kind of like people that want responses all the time. It's safe to say that my phone is a very, 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 very big part of my life now, and it still is, even if I've implemented some boundaries around it. But it wasn't long ago, and when I started, or no, let's say it in a different way. I had really bad habits about my phone for a long time, and those habits were actually affecting how much I wanted to continue in the line of business that I was in. So quite frankly, once I've gone through the next couple of paragraphs, you'll understand. But quite frankly, when I decided that enough is enough and I needed to make some changes, I was actually starting to resent my phone. I was feeling completely burned out. I was feeling overwhelmed, and I was really questioning how long I could keep on running my Fit with Egg business, or Thriving Lifestyles, it came to be called later, if I would continue on this journey. It's really a weird thing because I work from home alone a lot of the time, but I really felt like I was never able to disconnect, to just be at peace and quiet with my own thoughts and reflect over things, or think about what was important for me in life, or actually have fun without someone intruding. So I'm going to describe to you a normal day, and please tell me that I'm not alone in feeling like this. Maybe I am, but if you resonate with the following, then please make sure to leave a comment for me in the comments below, so I know that I'm not the only one. Okay. My day, the mornings would usually start with me checking email and messages. I would go through my 9 inboxes that I have. Last time I counted, I think there are more now. And I would be replying to messages from remote clients that live all around the world in different time zones. I would also be checking some emails, replying to some sponsors, and doing other things. And this is before I got out of bed. So the night was on the nightstand, so it's just about reaching out and then, doing these things. Most often, I would have had a morning training session planned. This is, again, during pandemic times. I would have planned that I was going to go for a walk or sit on the bike or something like that. But once I started replying to messages, it was kind of never ending. So I ended up replying to a few messages. Then I got a little bit sucked into feeling overwhelmed with all the things that I needed to do that day. So I would skip the training and kind of continue from there. So once I managed to get out of bed, I already had this overwhelming feeling that I was way, 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 way behind. I would write out my to-do list for the day, and I was using all these productivity hacks of 3 most important things and, less urgent and all this kind of things. But my to-do list was pretty long, and I kind of felt like it was very dictated by other people and not necessarily the most important things that I needed to do. So I'm just going to pause here for a second and do a little check-in with you. Have you ever counted all the inboxes that you have? If you haven't, then make sure to head back, check how many Instagram inboxes do you have, count the general, the private, the whatever they're all called, check how many email addresses you have, do you have WhatsApp messages, make sure to count all the inboxes and see how many places are you actually reachable on, okay? Back to the real thing. So my day would go on. I would try to achieve this extreme to-do list that I'd listed out for the day. And I would usually have my phone next to me. Yeah, it was on silent, but the app notifications would be on the front. I would have some kind of a mixture of incoming inquiries that would be friends reaching out, saying hello, confirming some weekend plans. I would have friends asking for a favor. Clients would be mixing into this mix, so I would get notifications from Truecodes, from WhatsApp, from Instagram. Then, someone would be sending a laughing, crying emoji on something that I shared on Instagram. But then I would also get a business inquiry for new coaching. So as someone who is actually diagnosed with ADHD, the phone was blinking there, and it's safe to say that I was not particularly productive with my to-do list of important items that I needed to complete, because I was constantly being pulled out and into this whatever was going on. And you're probably the same. Maybe it's just me, but as soon as I open a message on WhatsApp on my phone, I already have my phone in my hand, then automatically I'll find myself 10 minutes later scrolling on Instagram thinking, what am I doing? So I would place the phone back again, try to get back to my to-task list, and so on and so forth. We can fast forward this. This was usually my work day. I would feel very scattered. I was struggling getting through my tasks, and I was literally just trying to do it all at once, but not like fully focused on anything. We can fast forward to 6 p.m. where I was trying to finish up the workday. I was trying to make some food. I was trying to have some dinner with a friend, or maybe I was going out for a gathering. But the messages would keep trickling in. I would reply to some of them. They felt urgent, and I struggled so much with getting through it through the day that I didn't really dare to put these messages onto the next day. I kind of wanted a fresh start. So, like I said, trying to hang out with friends, phone pinging, late payment, something about the training program, urgent pain. I mean, it's all urgent, but instead of like actually calming down and like chilling with my friends and having some quality time, I was kind of half there, half at work, or maybe 75% at work and 25% there. Once I was done, I was trying to have some downtime, and I literally felt guilty, like I was sneaking in and hiding away from people when I was trying to get some kind of a fix to just, like I said, calm me down. Before going to bed, I would go to bed, brush my teeth, then go to bed. I'll be looking at a little bit more Instagram. I might have exchanged a few messages with my friends and family about how things are going. Oh, and while I was doing that, there was 3 more work messages that trickled in. But best I get back to those in the morning, and I ended up putting my phone away. And then we repeated all over again, as the next morning I would pick up the phone, start by replying to those 3 messages that trickled in last night, and then so on and so forth. And we're into another day of just being constantly distracted. So does your day look anything like this, or is this just me? I have the feeling, once I've said this now, that you are going to notice some trends in your life, and I would really like to know if you do. Just give me a thumbs up if this is something that you have experienced, and let me know that I'm not alone. So when I'm writing this right now, and now that I'm reading this out loud to you, I'm like, why did I not see how messed up this is? Like, how could I not realize that it was my own behaviors and habits that were actually keeping me stuck there? It was not because of anyone else. And I feel like this is something that I need to highlight and like say super clear, that I am not blaming any of my clients for messaging me at any given time. If they want to message me at 3 o'clock in the morning, their time, because that's when they are thinking about their health and fitness project, that's okay. But I am blaming myself for having this kind of a relationship with my phone, that I was always checking it. You can send and leave a message at any time, but it's up to me to create some boundaries and some rules about how I'm using my phone so that I can thrive with it. Now, at this point, I was feeling really anxious, I was overwhelmed, and I was really questioning if I wanted to continue running this online business and if I had even space for more clients. And this is really hard for me because my goal is to help as many people as possible. That's why I do this podcast. That is why I run an online business, is because I have a good way to do things. I know how to help people, and I want to help as many as possible. So, as I said, little did I know that it was actually my habits and my boundaries around my phone that were causing me to feel like this. And because of my lack of structures and rules about my phone, it was actually limiting me from being the best person I can be when I show up in conversations with people, and the ability to help people achieve their goals and live their best lives. So realizing that it was only my attitude and habits that needed to change, I dove kind of straight in. Now, it's really important to note that I always say that I'm on the road to better. I'm not on the road to perfect. So my road to a healthier relationship with technology has been very long. It's been ongoing now for about 3 years. And it definitely did not happen overnight. Although overnight I started making the first change, okay? So this is kind of like a snowball effect into where I am today. And I just want to share with you the first couple of steps that I took to start coming out of this. One day I heard a podcast in the morning. This was one of the mornings that was a little bit more productive because I managed to listen to a podcast after I had replied to emails in the morning. But anyways, I'm listening to a podcast. I think it was the Jenna Kutcher podcast. She mentioned that she started her day with 30 minutes of personal work without her phone every morning. She never slept with her phone in the bedroom. She actually charged it on a charging station somewhere else in the house, and then she would put it away in that charging station about 30 minutes before bed, so she would brush her teeth and do her debrief with her husband before she went to bed. And I was like, so 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes at night, charge it somewhere else. I was like, okay, I can do that. So one Friday night, feeling a little bit fed up from the work week, I took my phone charger off my nightstand, went on Amazon and ordered myself an old school alarm clock to make sure that I could wake up for work on Monday morning. But basically, I took the charger off the nightstand and moved it to the kitchen. Okay, that was the first one. Now, later that night, I brushed my teeth, placed my phone on charge, and I went to bed. And I felt bored. I was used to checking my phone and messages, so I was feeling a little bit bored. But it lasted for about 10 minutes before I picked up some old book that was hidden on my nightstand because I've had the goal of reading more for ages. I read for 10 to 15 minutes before I fell asleep. Now, the morning after I woke up and I reached for my phone, but it wasn't there. So it was really helpful that it was actually just in the kitchen hanging out. So I stayed in bed for another 10 to 15 minutes. I went through my to-do list for the day, what I'd planned out for myself, planned an outfit that I was going to wear, and then I went to the kitchen. I made my coffee and then I picked up my phone. So the first day it was very small. Subtle change, and it all started with the phone just not being there at my fingertips, okay? So after I had my coffee, replied to some messages, and then I went on to tackle my intention list or my to-do list for the day, and I just felt like there was some kind of a magic going on. I was like, okay, we are actually onto something. When I was replying to those messages, I felt calmer, I felt nicer, I felt kinder, okay? So I did about 1 year of just this change. Sorry, not 1 year, 1 week of just this change, okay? So the phone was charging in the living room or the kitchen, and I did half an hour before and after bedtime without my phone, okay? But then I was really inspired with how well this was going. So I decided to take on the next challenge, which was to wake up just a teeny tiny bit earlier so that I would have the first 90 minutes of the day to finish some of the most important tasks on my to-do list before the rest of the world was awake and before it was kind of socially acceptable to start replying to messages. So I did this, and it felt even better. So now I was actually doing 30 minutes at night before, like without my phone, and then 90 minutes in the morning. The rest of the day I was completely available and was replying to messages. And this felt even better than before, and I started being so much more productive. And as a result of feeling more productive, I was more happy, I was nicer, and I was more approachable when I actually came to replying to messages. So why am I sharing this? Yeah. This was my start to digital boundaries. Since then, I've added a couple. I've separated my work phone from my personal phone. I have deleted some Instagram app of my personal phone when I'm going through high stress periods. And I have a WhatsApp account that is for my friends to reach out to me about party planning. And then I also have a WhatsApp account for my business where you can reach me with business inquiries. And I'm not available to my friends during my business hours, and I'm not available to my clients during my friends' hours. So I kind of just created a little bit of a subtle divide between those two things so that I wouldn't be so fragmented all the time. And this is basically all that there is to my digital boundaries. all in all, it's been great. I obviously had some initial beginning problems with replying to messages, but I've kind of gotten into a good rhythm of batch replying to messages so that I can sit down and do something like this, where my phone is not going off, nothing is happening, and I can just fully focus here on talking to you. I had to work on setting some expectations with clients and with friends that I will not be responding immediately, that I'm not up for a chatty message back and forth, that we try to be a little bit more efficient with our communication. Hey, are you available at this and this time, giving a couple of different options, or leaving messages that are not intended for urgent replies, it's kind of more like an email way of communicating. But that is all a constant work in progress, and every time that something new arises, then we have to think about the best way to do that. But usually with this new format, I end up getting back to people within 12 to 24 hours, which I think honestly is way better than my total response time was before I started dividing things up. I do think that before I felt relatively lost and completely overwhelmed, and most of the time I was just hiding away from incoming messages, and I didn't really have that okay, now I'm going to reply. I was just like, oh, I'll do it later. There are way less messages now that get lost in the volume of unanswered messages, and I feel so much lighter and more in control of my day. And what I've realized, and is probably the best thing, is that I can actually help people without sacrificing my sanity. So this is my story about digital boundaries, how I got started, and a little bit about why I got started. But I would really love to hear if you have experienced anything similar, or if you recognize any of these behavior patterns yourself. So please do continue this conversation in comments. Let me know what your biggest challenge with digital communication is, whether it's your boss that keeps reaching out, or whatever your challenges is with your phone. And let me know some of the best hacks that you have found in keeping your boundaries with your phone in a healthy place for yourself. So let's continue this in comments. Looking forward to see you next time.